In the top stories, SCASPA announces reconstituted board of directors, Haiti embroiled in chaos a year since President Moise's killing, and Boris Johnson resigns after wave of scandals. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today is Thursday, July 7th, 2022. I'm Mervan Thompson. Nationally, the St. Christopher Air and Seaports Authority, SCASPA, has officially announced its reconstituted board of directors. They have consented to serve on the authority's board in accordance with Section 4, Subsection 8 of the SCASPA Act. In a press release issued on Thursday, SCASPA stated that the new board of directors is set to provide further diversity within the authority, with Gary De Silva serving as chairman of the board and Charmaine Heiliger appointed with duties of director and secretary to the board. Other members of the newly formed board are Jermaine Lake, Natasha Daniel, Dino Cumberbatch, Junior Sarant, Austin Julius, and returning board member Orrin Hughes. The management and staff of SCASPA congratulated the new 8-member board, who are tasked with policy making, providing strategic governance and oversight for the authority in fulfilling its mandate. The Public Order Act, which involves the rules and regulations surrounding public processions and meetings, was the topic of discussion on ZIZ Radio's Policing With You on Thursday. Head of the Criminal Investigation Department, Inspector Carl Griot, explained that the act facilitates the involvement of police during a public procession or meeting.
And according to the Public Meeting and Procession Act, it is Chapter 19 of 10, 2002. And what this act specifies, it is an act to make provision for public meetings and processions in order to facilitate police arrangements for the preservation of order at public meetings and processions, and to provide for related or incidental matters.
He added that since the dissolution of Parliament, there has been an increase in persons wanting to host public meetings. However, they have not been going through the correct procedures to host these events.
Since the House have been dissolved, individuals and groups have been having a number of public meetings, and they are not going through the proper or the right channels to hold these meetings. Hence, the commissioner was advised, and based on what he was advised, he have written to the individuals and groups involved, and for them to do the correct thing, the right thing, and follow the proper procedure in terms for them to hold a public meeting.
Inspector Griot spoke of the procedures to be taken when applying to host a public procession or meeting, which includes notifying the Commissioner of Police in writing of one's intention to host such an event. He noted that if the application is not approved and persons host the event anyway, that person would commit an offense and can be fined no more than $2,500 or be imprisoned for a term not exceeding 6 months. And finally, on the local scene, regional artist Darrell Farmernappy Henry has asked that musicians, artists, and by extension persons in the creative industry be taken care of by candidates who will form the government, as general elections in St. Kitts and Nevis are due by early August. At the launch of the People's Action Movement official campaign dubbed Liftoff, Farmernappy was one of 2 regional entertainers who was contracted to perform at the Central Street location when he made the comment.
I am lying only you know as musicians, right? So when all you opening all your mouth and all you saying the local artists getting this and the foreigners getting this, I hope when anybody win election that they take care of we. That's all we asking for. Take care of our musicians. Because here, this business have no pension. It have no pension. If you make 10 cents, say 5 cents. But here we fed up of we musicians being used. We fed up. This is not only for St. Kitts. This is Trinidad and Tobago and the entire Caribbean country. Please respect our.
His comments follow a recent public dispute over acquiring appropriate music licenses between the St. Kitts Music Festival SKMF Committee and the Eastern Caribbean Collective Organization ECHO around the time of the 2022 Music Festival held in June. The SKMF has been charged with not paying royalties for 2019 and 2022. Minister of Tourism Honorable Wendy Phipps indicated the government's intention to rectify that issue at a press conference on June 29th. Moving to news on the regional scene, it has been a year since Haitian President Jovenel Moïse was assassinated in his home, and the investigation into it continues. The case has cast a dark shadow over Haiti, which is embroiled in political and economic crises and escalating gang violence. Al Jazeera's Teresa Bo reports.
Naomi Jean-Louise has been living in this shelter for weeks. She was forced to leave her home when battles between rival gangs took over her neighborhood in Port-au-Prince.
I'm a disabled person and I'm the father and mother of children. The situation I'm living in isn't good at all. Even to go to the doctor's office, I have to go and ask in the street because of the insecurity.
Naomi is among thousands of people who have been displaced by the raging violence across much of Haiti. This is part of the ongoing chaos that has gripped the country ever since President Jovenel Moïse was killed last year. Despite dozens of arrests, including a group of Colombian mercenaries, Haiti's investigation has stalled. The acting Prime Minister, Ariel Henry, fired his Justice Minister and prosecutor last year when they called for him to be investigated in connection with Moïse's murder. Henry has denied any involvement in the killing.
Trying the assassination of a president is a very difficult thing in any country. In any country, it's major. This is really bad. But in Haiti, with the situation that we have, this is a country really all of our institutions have not been functional, even under Jovenel. The justice system, everything, the police, everything is just not functional.
A parallel investigation in the U.S. has 3 suspects in custody, including a former U.S. government informant who pleaded not guilty on Wednesday and faces life in prison if convicted. The U.S. Department of Justice wants to seal evidence of past crimes by some of the suspects, many who are also informants. Even though Ariel Henry took over the office of Prime Minister and enjoys the support of Western powers, Haitian civil society groups question his authority and are pushing for a transition that will lead to elections that have been repeatedly delayed for 5 years. Haitians are facing an economic crisis that was only made worse by the pandemic and the war in Ukraine. Half of the country is struggling with food insecurity, and rising inflation is making life harder for everyone. Like thousands of others in search of a better life someplace else, Antoine Guerrero was forced back to Haiti after being deported from the United States.
We are imprisoned in our own country because the insecurity makes every single person have a single goal, which is to leave this country. The reason why? It is uninhabitable. I feel like leaving this country again because the